All right. Guys, how we doing? We're back. Today, we're talking Heidegger. Pretend I have a video editor and a picture of Heidegger just popped up right here, all right? This essay, we're not going to start with Being in Time. We're not going to start on, the work of art or on framing or any of the big pieces. We're going to talk about, this is actually like another one of his magnum opuses. It's called The Question Concerning Technology. And this is a essay that I like very much so. So this video is going to be broken up into 3 parts. And this first part is kind of an intro into the rest of the essay, okay? So I'm just going to be honest, this gets kind of deep into the weeds, and it's a little confusing, but I'm going to try to put it into as simple of terms as possible. So we'll see what happens here, okay, guys? I think you're going to enjoy it, okay? Heidegger, my favorite philosopher, 20th century philosopher, Germany, wrote a lot about ontology and being, okay? He had a term called design. I don't really do the bibliographies much, but I'll get into Heidegger a lot. The philosophers I'm going to cover on this channel, the big ones are going to be the traditionalists and Heidegger, and then I also like Kierkegaard, Nietzsche. So a lot of the existentialists and the traditionalists, and then because this channel is also about Americans and how Americans can live a more anti-modern life, obviously the transcendentalists will be covered because they're kind of the roots of American philosophy, and I like a lot of what they have to say about nature and living off the land and self-reliance and so on and so on. So, we're going to start here. Heidegger reminds us questioning builds a way of thinking, and that all ways of thinking lead through language, okay? A big thing about Heidegger is, and he has another essay called What is Thinking, and we'll talk about that someday because I really like that essay. He thinks thinking and ways of thinking are pathways in which you go through life. So the lens that you wear, aka the ideology that you have, is the pathway in which you move through life. Okay? The only way we can have a free relationship with technology is if the relationship opens up our human existence to the essence of technology. So, we have to live in such a way that technology isn't dominating us, and we're also not dominating technology. We are having an open relationship with it. We need to open ourselves up, and then it will. We'll get into this later, but a term Heidegger uses a lot: unveil itself to us. What unveiling is? It's kind of like his version of truth, but we'll get into that. For Heidegger, essence doesn't just mean what something is, but the way in which something pursues its course. So the pathway, like for an object, so not an ideology, but an essence, is the way in which its course over time, plays out. And the way in which it remains through time what it is. Okay? Technology is not equivalent to the essence of technology. When seeking the essence of a tree, we need to realize that that which pervades every tree as tree is not itself a tree that can be found amongst all the other trees. So I know this is hard to get into. One thing about Heidegger that's notorious, if you don't know, his philosophy is a lot easier in German. The way he brackets words and the way in which he repeats himself with words like this are a lot easier to understand in German, but we'll get through it. I'm going to explain it. So like this. We need to realize that which pervades every tree as tree is not itself a tree that can be found amongst all the other trees. So what he's saying is what the essence of what a tree is isn't something you can find in a forest amongst trees, right? Like it's not just, the essence of a tree isn't just another tree in the forest. Like, oh, this is the essence tree. It's going to tell us the essences. It's not that easy, man. Okay? I switched to the vape. New Year's resolution. Look at this. No more cigarettes, dude. We're healthy. Healthy smoke. That's all I do now is healthy smoke, okay? None of that unhealthy smoke. I put liquid vitamins and minerals in this vape, so when I'm smoking, it's giving me power. It's a power vape, I call it. We shall never experience our relationship to the essence as long as we merely conceive and push forward the technological, put up with and evade it, okay? As long as we just have this relationship with technology where it's a part of the world, part of society around us, and we don't really question it, we're not going to find the essence of it, right? It's like God, right? You're not going to find it unless you search for it. It's not going to just pop out like behind a bush. We are unfree and chained to technology. It does its worst damage when we view it neutrally, for this conception leads us utterly blind to its essence, okay? It's like a woman, right? She's horrible and she's ruining your life, but you view her neutrally, then it's doing even more damage because you're not even aware of the damage it's doing, right? Technology is like women. Jordan, 2026. Two common answers to the question concerning technology are: 1, a means to an end; 2, a human activity, excuse me. Heidegger says it's both, actually. It's a means to an end and a human activity. For to posit an end and utilize the means to them is a human activity, okay? So to say technology has its ends and to utilize the technology to get to the ends, that is a human activity as well. So it's both. The manufacturing and utilization of equipment, tools, and machine, the manufactured and used things themselves, and the needs and ends that they serve all belong to what technology is. The whole of these contrivances is technology. Technology itself is a contrivance. Even though new technology seems different and new compared to older handwork technology, the definition of a means to an end and human activity still holds, okay? So a hammer and a quantum computer are the same, right? I mean, essentially. In essence, as he would say, essentially. Get it? What he's saying is the tool and the quantum computer, they both are something that we use to get to an end, and they're both things that only work within the bounds of humans using them. So they're both human activities. So if what you're using quantum computing for is to, I don't know, do some kind of cryptocurrency hacking or hack into someone's wallet, you know, something like that, or you just want to use the hammer to bust the guy's kneecap to get him to give you the password to the wallet, it's the same thing, right? It's just, you know, old tech versus new tech, dude. Everything depends on our manipulating technology in a proper manner as a means, and the will to mastery becomes ever more urgent the more technology threatens to slip from human control. So the more it threatens to slip from human control, the way in which we use technology is going to become more urgent, right? I think Elon's talked about this as he sees the rise in AI. The person at the top of the hierarchy, whoever controls that, needs to be of good intentions and hopefully values not destroying human existence. We will see, though. It will most likely be blood-sucking pedophiles, so, you know. Take with that what you will. Heidegger asks the question, what if technology were no mere means? How would it stand with the will to master it? So what he's saying is, what if it wasn't just a neutral tool? Well, the tool definition is accurate. It's not the full truth concerning the essence of technology. How do means and ends fit into our goal of figuring out the essence? A means is something that causes an effect to help you achieve something. Anything that produces a result is a cause. But causes aren't just tools to make something happen. The goal is also a cause because it shapes the tools you use. So, wherever people pursue goals and use methods to reach them, aka wherever the tool-like mindset dominates, causality reigns and is in charge. Okay, So that's going to be a big point, and it's going to come up a lot later. So I'm going to repeat that last part. Wherever human beings pursue goals and use methods to reach them, aka wherever the tool-like mindset dominates, causality reigns and is in charge. So, anywhere human beings in any culture have a mindset that there's already an end in mind, the causality is in charge, right? Because what that goal is going to choose the means, right? Okay, so if you're building a house and there's a certain screw head, right? That's going to determine which screw you use, right? If the goal is to get this certain screw into the wall, it's going to determine which screw you use and which head the screw has, right? Now, obviously, when you put this in societal or political terms, if you're in charge of a country or society and evil intentions or evil goals are your goals, evil intentions are your goals, then the tools in which you use and the methods in which you use to attain those goals are going to be different than the ones you would use for good goals. And the methods are going to lead to a lot of pain. Philosophy has taught us 4 causes. 1, the material/matter something is made of, what a silver chalice is made of. 2, the form, shape something is made of. So the silver chalice, the shape of a chalice is what the matter is going to be made. 3, the end/the sacrificial rite which the chalice is required and what the form/matter is used for. And 4, what brings about the effect, aka the silversmith. So what we're talking about, and I should have said this at the beginning, is a silver chalice. And these are the 4 causes of the silver chalice. What it's made of, the shape, the end goal, which is in this case it's a chalice used for a sacrificial rite in a religion, and what brings it about, the silversmith. So, what is causality itself is veiled? What if causality itself is veiled in darkness? What if the cause of something is veiled in darkness? For centuries, we acted as though the doctrines of the 4 causes. I was just seeing if I skipped pages. I'm sorry. For centuries, we acted as though the doctrine of the 4 causes fell from heaven. Maybe it did. Heidegger thinks it's time to speak and question certain aspects of causality. For a long time, we have been accustomed to representing cause as that which brings something about. Okay, fair enough. To bring about means to obtain results, effects. Among Aristotle's 4 causes, we mostly focus on the efficient cause, the one doing the work, the silversmith, and we ignore the final cause, the purpose or the goal. Okay? The word cause comes from Latin, meaning to fall, meaning it leads to a certain outcome. It falls into a certain outcome. Even though the doctrine of the 4 causes comes from Aristotle, the ancient Greeks did not think the way we moderns do. What we call cause and the Romans causa, the Greeks called aion, that to which something else is indebted. Okay? So aion means that to which something else is indebted. So Aristotle's 4 causes are the ways, all belonging at once to each other, of being responsible for something else. Okay, let me repeat that. Aristotle's 4 causes are the ways, all belonging at once to each other, of being responsible for something else. So he's saying when you have something, the 4 causes all belong together in one synthesis to be responsible for the object. So these 4 causes come together to be responsible for the silver chalice. So he's saying the way in which we and the Romans thought were different than the way the Greeks thought. We think that it means to fall into something, and they thought it meant to be indebted into something. Okay, just clarifying for myself too. I took these notes about a week ago. For example, silver is that which the chalice is made. The chalice is indebted, it owes thanks to the silver for that out of which it consists. It also appears as a chalice, not a ring or not a, silver coin. So it's also indebted to that form. Both the silver in the form and the form holding the silver are co-responsible for the silver chalice. The telos, the aim or the purpose, the reason something is brought about, is responsible for what as matter and for what as aspect are together, co-responsible for the chalice. Okay, he's just clarifying how these things are co-responsible for something. But then Heidegger says the silversmith is co-responsible, but not the fourth cause in the modern world. So what he's saying is, in our world it's different. And I think when he's talking about in our world and when it comes to technology, the fourth cause, the silversmith, is not responsible. So he's saying in technology, in the modern world, the maker is not responsible for the technology. Aristotle doesn't have a term for a modern way of just pushing things into existence, into a consumeristic society in a cold, machine-like way. The silversmith used to collect the three former causes and reflect how they were all connected and owed something to each other in a holistic way. Okay? Where nowadays he's saying, you don't really have a craftsman who brings things together to make something and care about the purpose and the sacredness of what something was responsible for in the world. We just kind of make things in a warehouse, and we take a bunch of raw material, make something in a warehouse, and just push it out into society to be used for whatever in the store. The three forms owe gratitude to the reflection, dwelling, and pondering of the silversmith, not the swinging of the hammer of the silversmith. So what is the source of the unity of the four causes? Okay, so this is big in Heidegger, dwelling. Okay, he thinks that's a lot of what makes human beings, is we dwell on things, we look at things in new light, create new viewpoints, new perspective towards things. Okay? Moderns understand being responsible and being indebted moralistically as a lapse, or construe them in terms of affecting. Until we open up a path to the true roots of causality, we won't understand instrumentality, which builds on causality and involves how things are used as tools or means to an end. One second. To avoid this confusion, let us clarify the four ways of being responsible/indebted. Let us clarify the four ways in terms of what they're responsible for. All right. Oh, and there's a quote, so I got to get the book here. Okay. The four ways are responsible for the chalice lying ready before us as a sacrificial tool. Lying ready characterizes presencing of something that presences. The four ways bring something into appearance and let it come forth into presencing. Okay? They free it up into its proper place and get it started on its path towards its way. Ready its complete arrival. It's becoming what it truly is. This starting on its way, in a sense, is how being responsible is an occasioning or an inducing to go forward. Okay? So what he's saying is, I know that was hard. What he's saying is those four ways of being responsible, these co-responsible things that make the chalice in the world, they put the chalice into the world, into human perception, into its path going forward, its essence. So what he's saying is the silversmith and the other three things, they are what give the chalice its essence of a sacrificial chalice. That's what he's saying. They are what give this chalice its perception of a chalice used in a sacrificial rite. They are what are responsible for this essence, this chalice. They are what give it its place in the world as a sacrificial tool. Okay, I know this is hard, and I know this is a weird way of saying it. Heidegger's weird, and a lot of his philosophy, it's so hard because Heidegger, a lot of his philosophy is like, you learn vocabulary for him more than other philosophers, and once you get into this way of thinking and his vocabulary, his verbal tools, no pun intended because we're talking about tools, it becomes a lot easier. So that's why I'm trying to make it as simplified as possible. So what he's saying is, in the old days at least, maybe not in the modern world, these four ways, these four things brought the silver chalice into human perception and into the world, and its essence into the world as something used as a sacrificial tool. Okay. What the Greeks experienced in being responsible in Aisha, we now give to this verb to occasion, on inducive meaning. The name for the essence of causality, thought as the Greeks thought it. Okay, so the way the Greeks thought it is to occasion. Okay, but in what then does playing in unison of the four ways of occasioning play? Okay, I'm going to say that again. But in what then does the playing in unison of the four ways of occasioning play? So how do these things, how do these four things work together in the Greek sense of occasioning play? How do they play together of occasioning? Okay, not the of falling, of occasioning. Okay, and now here's where I got a quote. They let what is not yet present arrive into presencing. Accordingly, they are unifiedly ruled over by a bringing that brings what presences into appearances. Plato tells us what this brings is in a sentence from the Symposium. Every occasion for whatever passes over and goes forward into a presencing, from that which is not presencing is bringing forth. It is of utmost importance that we think bringing forth in its full scope, and not at the same time in the sense in which the Greeks thought it. Not only handcraft manufacture, not only artistic and poetical bringing into appearance, and concrete imagery is a bringing forth. This poiesis. The arising of something from out of itself is a bringing forth. Poiesis, physis is indeed poiesis in the highest sense. For what presence is by means of physis has the bursting open, belonging to, bringing forth, the bursting of a blossom into bloom in itself. Okay? What he's saying is like kind of what I said earlier, and I know he's saying it in a weird way, but these four things work together to bring an object into the world, to bring an essence into the world, into human perception. So when he's saying physis has the bursting open belonging to bringing forth, e.g. the bursting of a blossom into bloom in itself, in itself. You got to remember he's a phenomenologist, so he's thinking everything about human perception. So he's saying, like a flower, its essence is blossoming into our perception, right? It's the silver chalice is telling us this is the silver chalice for sacrificial rite. It just makes sense in the world. You don't have to question it. You just look at it. Its essence makes sense, okay? In contrast, what is brought forth by the artist, the silver chalice, has the bursting open belonging to, bringing forth, not in itself, but in another, in the craftsman or artist. The modes of occasioning, the four causes are at play then within bringing forth. Through bringing forth, the growing things of nature, as well as whatever is completed through the crafts and the arts, come at any given time to their appearance. But How does bringing forth happen, be it in nature or in handwork and art? What is the bringing forth in which the fourfold ways of occasioning plays? Occasioning has to do with presencing, of which at any given time comes to appearance in bringing forth. Bringing forth brings hither out of concealment, forth into unconcealment. Bringing forth comes to pass only in so far as something concealed comes into unconcealment. This coming rests and moves freely within what we call revealing. Okay? Now, this is where we're going to stop. I'm going to finish this. The Greeks have the word aletheia for revealing. The Romans translate this with veritas. We say truth, and usually understand it as the correctness of an idea. I know that was really complicated, but basically, and I'm just going to say this in simple terms, what we're trying to get into is what Heidegger's trying to say. He's trying to show us how these four causes, these four ways of being responsible, work together to bring forth into perception, into the world, the truth of something, the veritas of something, the essence of something. He's going to show us how these four ways bring forth the truth, the essence of something into human perception, into the world. And why this matters is this is the methodology in which he's going to show us the essence, the truth of technology. Okay? There we go. There, it's all wrapping together. Like I said, that was the introduction. I had to do the weave. Guys. I weaved around. Okay? And now we're going to be able to get into what is the essence of technology. Alright? Now, all my little Ted Kaczynskis out there, technology's bad, no bueno, we know that, okay? No bien, okay? No good. You guys know the rules. We're going to build cabins in the forest. We're going to have big European families, no technology, and we're going to build Ubermenches, okay? You guys know the rules, alright? You guys know the rules. Find God, stay sober, always sign a prenup. Alright, I'll see you guys around.